Welcome to session 6 of European Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Stanford Engineering School. Today is February 26, 2018. My name is Burton Lee. I'm the course instructor, and today we're covering the really important topic and under-discussed issue here in the Valley of EU data privacy rules and how they're affecting what lessons and risks can be taken for Silicon Valley corporates and startups and US in general. The alternative title for today's session is, if I turn this on, the European Union invades Silicon Valley. And I mean this quite seriously. I think as we'll see today from our speakers, the level of legal intervention, but also operational changes that are being required of Valley companies go all the way to the level of re-architecting products. It's not just the legal teams that are affected here. Of course, it affects data policy, data management, but this goes, in some cases, goes all the way to re-architecting products, but also reshaping how product teams are formed and managed. So it's quite significant. And we haven't seen this level of external legal intervention really at quite this level at any time in Silicon Valley's history. So today is, as I mentioned, session 6. Our speakers today come from our current former general counsels, privacy counsels at Valley Corporates. One of our speakers, Sabrina Ross, is former counsel with Uber and Apple, responsible for GDPR and privacy. And Leila Golchehreh is currently senior counsel for privacy with Adaptive Insights, an enterprise software company. You'll see them along 101. We also have a Valley European investor, VC here, Marcel, representing SpeedInvest out of Vienna, but also wearing the hat of VP of Business Development for a very interesting startup in Berlin called Aircloak, which is designing, manufacturing, producing, selling GDPR compliance software products and services for corporates in Europe and the US and around the world. And then finally, we have Mirena Taskova from Fieldfisher, who did her LLM here at Stanford. Yes. Yeah, Fulbright scholar from Bulgaria, and is currently senior privacy advisor with Fieldfisher, which is a UK law firm. One I'm not personally familiar with until we discussed this in the last few days. So 2 insiders from the corporate side, 2 outsiders from the venture side, talking about also the global market for GDPR compliance, and a law firm with a practice, a European, US, also Asian practice for Asian corporates that works with hundreds of companies around the world on GDPR compliance. So 4 very different perspectives. Again, would like to thank our industry partner, European partner, Mind the Bridge, Marco and the Mind the Bridge team. And a reminder of the European Innovation Day, which is coming up in September. Mind the Bridge has been kind enough to offer all of you a special registration code and rate. So Stanford Europreneurs is a special VIP registration code, which will get you a discounted entrance fee, is that registration fee, which all of you are welcome to take advantage of. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Europe. There's been a lot going on just in the past 2 weeks since we met last. Are there any Norwegians in the audience? Okay, if any Norwegians are going undercover these days, we have a safe space for Norwegians over here. Okay, you're under my protection while you're in this room. I can't guarantee your safety elsewhere. But if you look at the European coverage of the Winter Olympics in Korea, it's absolutely amazing. The Europeans basically ran away with the entire Winter Olympics. It's pretty impressive, led by Norway and Germany. But coming back to our topic of the day, just today it was announced that there's new legislation being considered in Brussels regarding the which is planned to give the European Commission and maybe national governments, maybe this is something you guys can comment on if you are a bit more up to date on this, but affects basically allows governments or the European Commission to access data on European residents regardless of where it's stored. That includes inside the United States. So again, this is an expansion of the EU's impact on Valley business and also American consumers as well. Just around February 16, Facebook received a major fine from Belgium around use of consumer data. Let me just read you some of these quotes from the court ruling. Facebook informs us insufficiently about gathering information about us, the kind of data it collects, what it does with that data, and how long it stores it. It also does not gain our consent to collect and store all this information. So this is something that American companies are going to have to think a lot about. This is a major source of activity here in the Valley, which we'll be touching on today, but this affects American consumers and how Valley companies deal with American consumer information. Also, just a couple of days ago, it was announced that the chairman of Geely out of China, a major automotive company, has made a $9 billion investment in Daimler and is with the goal of entering into partnership or technology access discussions. So this has raised a lot of attention in Europe, primarily from the German government, but it's just one feature of how China is increasingly building out strategic relationships with European companies at many, many levels, from startups all the way to corporates. It's very significant. This new China-Europe axis is only going to grow, and it's an open question how that's going to affect Silicon Valley. Now, there are a number of recent anniversaries. So over the weekend, February 24th was the 100th anniversary for Estonia, with a lot of festivities in Tallinn, Tartu, and elsewhere. It's a very big accomplishment for Estonia, which declared independence on February 24, 1918. For a country of about 1.3 million people, to be sandwiched in between two major superpowers, gone through 2 world wars, and to come out today as a world leader in ICT, e-government, it's a very, very impressive accomplishment. Would also like to remember February 22nd, that would have been Thursday, was the 75th anniversary of the deaths of the twins, Sophie and Hans Scholl. They were protesters, resistors to the Nazi movement in Munich, and they were executed in 1943. They were students at the University of Munich, where I studied. Also, it's worth noting that this month, Kosovo celebrated its 10th anniversary. So here we have countries that are celebrating 100th anniversary and completely new countries that are only 10 years old. It's pretty amazing. We take our own independence for granted here in the United States. In these countries, it's still not always taken for granted. There are neighboring countries who are not positively disposed to some of these new independent states. And then Vilnius, so Lithuania, also recently celebrated its 100th re-independence on February 16. There's a long story there. We don't have time to get into it. Also very surprising and startling, but I think a very positive development for Greece is that Tesla has decided to locate a electric motor R&D center in Athens, close to proximity of the National Technical University, which is well known for a strong electrical engineering and power electronics department. This is a very big deal for Greece to get an entire research group from Tesla headquartered in Greece. It's really a great success story. And then finally, 402 years ago today, Galileo was prohibited by the Vatican from teaching the Copernican heliocentric theory of the universe in Rome. So when you think about the discussions about science today, climate change, these battles around science go way, way back in different forms. And so what's interesting about this is there are, you can see the original documents, the letters from the Vatican with these rulings. And when you go into, for example, the University of Padua and lecture in the Galileo lecture hall, this is all very current history in many ways for certain parts of Europe. But just a reminder that European science history goes way, way back, further than the establishment of the United States, California, and really is the foundation on which we rest here today in the US.